Adults with ADHD don't learn from rewards and punishments. They don't. Or we might learn the wrong thing. Okay, that's very likely too. And that is established. So if you want to ground them, if you want to punish them, take away something, okay. But just understand that's for you. And one mom said, yep, he lost his iPad for a week. I'm like, good, if that's what you want to do, but the child will learn more from the debrief. And in the debrief, by the way, we want to teach respect when we debrief with the kids. So there are times both parties need to be ready to debrief.
Hi, it's Kate from ADHDKidsCanThrive.com. Before we start, I want to address the fact that I know how overwhelming it can feel to parent a child with ADHD. That's why I want to share my journey with you through my book, How We Roll, A Parent's Journey on Raising a Child with ADHD. All my experiences, insights are narrowed down into this book. To help you get started, I've made the first 3 chapters of the book available to you for free. You can check out through the link in the show notes below. Welcome. My guest today is Tamara Rosier, PhD. She has been a college administrator, a professor, a leadership consultant, a high school teacher, a business owner, and an ADHD coach. Through those adventures, she has developed valuable insight into ADHD and how it affects one's life. As founder of the ADHD Center of West Michigan, Dr. Rosier leads a team of coaches, therapists, and speech pathologists to help individuals, parents, and families develop a better understanding of ADHD and learn skills to live with it effectively. Okay, she's written 2 books. One's called Your Brain's Not Broken, and the other one that has just come out in the last few months is You, Me, and Our ADHD Family. And that is the book we're going to talk about today, or kind of focus our conversation around that, because that is such a thing when you have an ADHD child or you yourself have ADHD. So let's start with, why did you write this book?
Yeah, so I wrote the first book out of this kind of need to tell people I haven't met, hey, your brain's not broken. You have ADHD, you're fine. It doesn't feel fine. It's just, you're not broken. And so that was the impulse to write that first book. The second book, though, was out of my work. I kept seeing people struggling in families, and they would love each other. They wouldn't love each other really well. And as you are well aware, ADHD comes with some baggage that makes relating to each other difficult sometimes. And you also know ADHD runs in families. And so I didn't see any resources out there addressing, hey, it runs in families.
Yeah. And how does, this is why I do what I do, right? As a parent, you don't really necessarily realize what's going to, like, the dynamic changes when you become a parent and you have a child, right? And then you may not realize the dynamic of what, like, ADHD can bring into that dynamic and how difficult that can be at times when you're learning to be a parent yourself. So what is it about ADHD? What are those traits in ADHD that show up in, like, family dynamics that starts to make things difficult?
Well, I talk about that in the very first chapter. And the first chapter, as you know, is called Welcome to the Goat Rodeo. And I call it a goat rodeo because, and I give a lot of examples of this in the first chapter. But it's well-meaning people who are trying to help each other, who just don't follow healthy boundaries. There's emotional dysregulation. Sometimes you might see, if we were related, you might see my ADHD symptoms as character traits. Instead of just like my time blindness, you might go, oh, for crying out loud, she can't ever be on time. That's so disrespectful. Forgetting that I'm time blind. And true story, I am incredibly time blind. In fact,
you're on time for this podcast.
Okay, first of all, thank you. I just really appreciate what you just did there. And thanks for that little dopamine hit, because I was just going to say, I get a little dopamine hit anytime I'm on time. I'm like, well, look who's a grown up right now. So So thank you for that.
You're welcome.
But we have all these things happening in families. And families are also, and you know this, you're a parent, it's where you show your real self. We can go out into the world, clean ourselves up, and we can look like pretty presentable humans. But we walk through the door, take off our shoes, hang up our coat, and what you see is really who we are. And oh, well, and think about how that really is difficult. Parenting and with children, you ask your child to go in and get his socks so you can leave the house. And you're like, for crying out loud, because you have ADHD too, like, hurry it up, let's get in the van. And he's sitting down playing Legos because he has short-term memory and forgot he went in there to get socks, right? All of this causes stress in families.
Yes, it does. Okay.
Yes, you are correct.
Okay, so let's get into kind of more like some methods that parents could use to kind of help manage, like, why is it important to figure all of this out, right? And to work on changing the family dynamics.
Yeah. Well, first of all, the parent really needs to know, are you a have or have not? Do you have ADHD? Remember, highly hereditary, right? And so if you're like, oh, no, I wasn't diagnosed. Well, that's a cool story, but do you have ADHD or not? Right? Where did it come from? If you are the parent with ADHD, you need to understand your ADHD first, because you are going to be the person to help your children understand how their brain works. People without ADHD, bless their ever loving hearts, they really can't understand ADHD logic. They try hard, and I watch as neurotypicals squint at me like, I think I know what she's doing. And yet it's so effortless between another ADHD person to link up. So
okay, but let me ask you this though, like, if you grew up with ADHD back in the olden days where it wasn't really like called out, and you were never able to regulate your emotions or never taught how to regulate your emotions, then you become this parent who's dysregulated as well, right? So
that's exactly. So the first thing, so understand, first of all, if you have ADHD or not. If you don't have ADHD, I need you to study it so that you stop looking at your kid like your kid's a freak.
Yeah.
Okay. Your kid uses an entirely different operating system. You don't have access to it. So I'm going to caution you to just slow down and be curious and really study. If you have ADHD, get really good at your ADHD first. But the whole first part of my second book, You, Me, and Our ADHD Family, is the first part is get yourself straight first. Stop working on your kids. Get yourself straight. Later on this week, I have a call. I do a lot of parent coaching. I parent coach for parents of 20-somethings.
Oh.
And I have to tell you, we've extended adolescence. Yeah, we've extended adolescence. And this person
who has our culture has extended it, right? The culture we live in.
Yeah.
Taking longer for kids to grow up. Yeah.
It's truly no one's fault. There's a great book I read years ago called Huck's Raft, and it talks about adolescence in the US and what, just a historical viewpoint. It's a nerdy read, but very interesting. But what has happened and what will happen in this phone call is I'll work with a parent going, okay, you're being highly reactive right now. You're panicking because this child, 27-year-old, is in the basement playing games and not doing anything about life. Great. Who's caring more about this problem right now, right? So I work with the parents to get their stuff straightened out first. And that includes emotional regulation for the ADHD and non-ADHD.
Yeah.
Because remember, there's compulsive helpers, right? Usually there's going to be a parent who's a compulsive helper who just wants to make it easy for their kids.
Yeah. Yeah.
So let's work with your emotions. And then slowly we're going to, because the only person we can control here is you. We're going to work with you. And parents aren't happy about this. I mean, one parent said, well, can you just talk to my kid for me?
Yeah. Which is a typical response. Yeah.
Yeah. Fix my kid. That is the wrong mindset. Absolutely the wrong mindset. Fix yourself. And they're like, well, I don't need to be fixed. I go to work on time. Okay, but you're over in the book. I talk about something called over functioning. You're over functioning for your child, allowing him or her to under function. And so I'm going to work with the parent to go, hey, let's bring this back in line. You're you clearly love your child a lot, but everything's out of balance. So let's learn how to love better.
Yeah. Okay. All right. So then let's talk about when their emotions kind of get, when the kids' big behaviors start to get big and are dominating like the family dynamic. Like,
Yeah.
every
Yeah.
parents think there's no way this is happening in another family. Okay. And after all your years of experience, you see it all the time, right? It is
All the
commonplace,
time.
even though the
Yes.
parent feels like there's no way there's another kid
Yeah.
in the entire universe acting like this. And it's unbelievable. And I can't believe it. Right.
Right.
So let's just talk about, can you just give parents some kind of like tips on how
Yeah.
when their kid is being really difficult, whether that's like your butting head, the defiance.
Hmm.
They
Yeah.
refuse to do it,
So,
they avoid it.
yep. So
So
the smarter the kid, the higher the defiance. So I always make a joke when I work with parents like, hey, if you're seeing a lot of oppositional behavior, that's on you guys. Two smart people got together and had a baby, and there was ADHD in the mix. So I'm just seeing smart ADHD. And so, I start to reframe this as, let's take this down a threat level. Okay. Yeah, the kid is acting like a darn fool. We're going to deal with that. And a lot of times I'm working with parents, the first thing I do is say, let me take a guess what's happening in your home. And before they even start speaking, and I kind of say, I bet this is happening. You're all ready to go on his trip. You're excited. This kid decides he doesn't want to go. He's refusing to leave the van. And they're like, oh my gosh, just like you're in our house.
yeah.
I'm like, yeah. And I do that as kind of a parlor trick to go, this is how common it is. So we don't have to have shame about this. We do need to parent a little bit differently, and we need to understand what's happening. So with parents, first I begin by, and I talk about this in the second book, a metaphor of the pool. And I introduce a pool metaphor. And the pool metaphor goes like this. There's a pool, and it houses all of our intense emotions. Good, bad, ugly, intense. Okay. Now, people who don't have ADHD, they have a fence around that pool, and that's great. And they probably even have a lifeguard on duty. We'll call that the prefrontal cortex. Awesome. Those of us without ADHD, including grown-ups, we sometimes don't realize how close we are to the pool. And we go bloop, 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 plop, we're in our big emotions. And again, it can be joyful or anger, usually anger, but it could be any big emotions, positive or negative. And so what we want to start doing is teaching pool proximity. So with parents, I'm like, how close are you to the pool right now? And what happens in families is, let's say a kid cannonballs in there and goes, I'm not doing it. Cannonballs in there. And then dad's like, oh, heck no. And he cannonballs right in after his son. And now there's a pool fight. Okay, you see the metaphor.
Yes, I love
Kind
your
of working there.
analogies. Yes.
Because now we're in the middle of a pool fight,
Right.
right? Meanwhile,
Moms may be
sometimes,
going, oh my
yeah,
God, oh
guys, get
my
out of the
God.
pool. The neurotypical mom is like, please, here, she's throwing anything she has in the pool so they
Right.
can get out, right?
Right.
So I start teaching families some pool rules. And some pool rules are, again, I go into more detail in the book, but the first pool rule is everyone's responsible to get out of the pool. I can't get you out of the pool. I am not a trained lifeguard. Now, there are times for lifeguards. That is if someone is so deep in addiction, depression, anxiety, we call a mental health provider. Those are lifeguards.
Okay, what about physical kids who are physical, like they act out physically?
Yep. Yeah.
That's like
So,
get the lifeguard to come in, save the
well,
kid.
here's the thing. Lifeguard, remember the lifeguard in this situation represents someone dragging someone out of their deep emotions. You can't drag someone out of their deep emotions.
Yeah.
Only they can get out there. So something we want to do with children is talk ahead of time. We could introduce, I have families who introduce the pool, and they've done it in a lot of fun ways using Lego men with blue Legos, a big blue blanket, and they acted it out, Barbies, but they introduce this pool metaphor. And then the parent says, hey, listen, when you're close to the pool, I'm going to say, you're getting close to the pool. And that's going to be a decision point for you. And if you mock me at that point, by the way, I would have those kids that would go, oh, ho, 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 I'm close to the pool. Cool story, bro. Keep going. But then I just observed. I'm not telling you what to do. If you're going to end up in the pool, though, we're going to have to do some things. So, by the way, siblings love to push each other in the pool. ADHD siblings, they practically get the dopamine high from it. Well, don't practically, they do.
Yeah.
And so there's all these, family dynamics around this. And so let's say we're dealing with someone who's 9 years old, falls in the pool, and he just starts breaking crap around the house, right? At that point, you want to get the child to a safe spot. Your goal is not to stop him from breaking things at that point, believe it or not. The goal is to get him safe and make sure siblings are safe,
Yeah.
right?
Okay.
That's safety. Here's the catch. Hopefully, there's times before he's in the pool when you give him the option saying, hey, I see you're getting close to the pool. You have some strategies discussed ahead of time with the child that he or she can do. One of my clients had a big wiffle ball bat. Those are like plastic bats. They're hollow and big. And he would go out and beat up this huge oak tree in their yard. And the oak tree wasn't even fazed by it,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
But he got all that energy out before landing in the pool.
Yeah.
And
That he knew I want to
yes.
jump in that pool, but I'm going to detour with my
I'm
back
going
to
to take
the
a
tree.
detour. Yep. And it just, he went through so many wiffle bats, and the parents are like, hey, we'll buy you 1,000 of them. Like, it's fine.
It's a
Right.
great strategy.
Yeah. Another one would go and jump. They had an in-ground trampoline, and the kid would just jump and flip and twist and great. One of the young women I worked with, she was about 10 or 11. She would go swing. They had a great kind of swing set in the back, and she just felt like she could get out a lot of energy that way.
Yeah.
So the parents are giving, hey, do you want to dispel this energy elsewhere? Right? But once they're in the pool, parents have got to understand, I can't drag you out of the pool. That's your responsibility. And I need parents to have that boundary, because here's what happens if you don't do this. You create children who go, you pushed me in the pool, and now I'm in the pool. I hope you're happy. No, kiddo, you got into the pool. That's you. That's you. Now remember, I'm not adding for shame here, because all of us fall into the pool with ADHD on a regular basis. I mean, the days that I don't fall into the pool, I'm just like, wow, this is very successful.
It was a good day. Yeah.
It was a great day, Tam. And I'm a grown woman. So I'm not saying falling in the pool is bad, but once we swim to the side of the pool with children, we need to have a debrief. And the debrief are 3 steps. Hey, tell me the pool story. What led you to the pool? Now, any kid worth his salt is going to go, well, he pushed me, or, in all those details, right? You're going to just say quiet, asking calm questions, and go, but you landed in the pool. How did you get there? And so you're teaching the child to own his or her intense emotions. Then we have to talk about what happened in the pool. Hey, buddy, you said some swear words when you were in the pool. That's not allowed around here, is it? And so we have to talk about what happened in the pool. Okay? Or you pulled your sister in. She was just over there playing by herself. And then, and I'm saying metaphorically pulled her in, but the child may have gone over to hit the other child. And then finally, we have to talk about, how do we want to fix this? Because when we fall into the pool and we involve others, we have to fix things. And so we're trying to teach the child, we need to understand. We don't have to shame ourselves. And by the way, I work with so many families. The kids will write these horrible, letters to their parents, like, I am the worst kid on earth. I am so sorry I was a jerk to you. And they're horrible letters because the child is trying to train him or herself with shame.
Yeah.
And I want to give kids a better way to do it. And those letters just always break my heart because the kid is truly remorseful,
Yeah.
but doesn't have any other ways of fixing it besides say, I am the worst person on earth.
Yeah.
And I don't want that. That's
And
not
so your technique is to come out and like have a family discussion about what happened and then decide
actually
how.
just a one-on-one discussion. Parents with a child. Hey,
Yeah. Okay.
you're,
Versus, yeah. I didn't mean
yeah.
family, sorry, but just the
Oh,
parent and
okay.
the child.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. Now, parents, those of you with ADHD, you might want to skip the step because, life's busy. Let's just get in let's just get in the car. Let's do this. Let's do this. We're late for the soccer. We need to treat that this is the most important step. You have to do the debrief. And guess what? It teaches our children that there is a cost when my intense emotions hurt other people or things. There's a cost, and I have to repair that. And so we're creating responsibility in our children. And again, we're not punishing them for going into the pool. Okay, that is unremarkable, right? But getting out and figuring out how to problem solve once you're out. That's what we're trying to teach kids.
Yeah. Okay. To stay resilient for sure.
Mm-hmm.
Right. And
Yep.
to find a different way. Like, so let's say we talked about vacation, right? They don't want to go, right? They're in the van. So you let them, they jump in the pool, you debrief.
Mm-hmm.
And as part of it's kind of problem solving is that they kind of learn to regulate through the vacation without having.
No, bridge too far, man. Bridge too
Okay.
far, Kate. That's so a lot of parents will go, yeah, we need to teach them to self-regulate.
Yeah. Well, here's my question. Like, because parents are going, well, what's the consequence for them jumping off into the pool and not okay. That's what I'm trying to get to because parents are going to go, all right, Tamara, like, what is
So the consequence is this. You have to sit down for a debrief with me. We will together problem solve on how to fix the behavior. Now, a lot of parents want their pound of flesh. If they're like, well, there needs to be consequences. He's grounded. Cool. Do that if that makes you feel good. It is not going to teach the child a darn thing. You know why I know this? I know brain research. I know that adults with ADHD don't learn from rewards and punishments. They don't. Or we might learn the wrong thing. Okay, that's very likely too. And that is established. So if you want to ground them, if you want to punish them, take away something, okay. But just understand that's for you. And one mom said, "Yep, he lost his iPad for a week." I'm like, "Good. If that's what you want to do, but the child will learn more from the debrief. And in the debrief, by the way, we want to teach respect when we debrief with the kids. So there are times both parties need to be ready to debrief. And so sometimes kids might go, Mom, I want to debrief now because, you can't do anything you want until after we debrief, by the way. Like you're sitting up in your room until we do this debrief.
Until you're ready to talk.
Yep. And there's times.
Sometimes that might be days, right?
Well,
it can be.
We don't want it to be too long because we don't want to lose the impact of the moment. So if the child's pushing you, but if you're still really upset, you're like, honey, I'm sorry. I am not ready to debrief yet. I'm still angry about this. Now, sometimes the parents are like, are you ready to debrief? And the kid's like, no.
Yeah.
Okay. Stay there. Let me be clear. You do not pass go until we debrief. And let me be very clear on what this means. I'm not forcing your hand. I will wait for you to be ready. You do not get to go outside and play until we do. And this is so important because ADHD people, sometimes we screw up and we're like, okay, let's just skip over that. Can we okay, I'm sorry. Let's just move on. And we're trying to convey the seriousness of no. We really have to understand, how did you get into the pool? What happened in the pool? And what are we going to do now that you're out of the pool to fix what happened? We have to understand those things. If not, then you're going to splash people and it's not going to be a good life for you, bud. This is important work. One time I said to one of my girls, I can still see her face. I said, "This is important work that we're doing." And she just looked at me. She goes, "Yeah, I just don't want to do the important work." And I'm like, "Well,
Well,
that's
just
really honest, but we have to do it."
yeah,
So, yeah. So,
it's great. Okay, we have just a few more minutes, but I wanted to ask, what do you find like in your how do parents like with burnout, right? With the cycle that you're talking about, right? It can
yeah.
feel like a lot of work
Yeah.
all the time because it's a process for
Yeah.
ADHD kids to grow up. So what's your recommendation on like just kind of parents who are burning out, right? Burnout's a
Yeah.
real thing.
Yep.
And parents get stuck in this, like, they just give up, kind of like
Yeah.
just let them sink or swim.
Yeah.
And then you kind of get into and then you find yourself maybe with these kids in their 20s, right? Who are having a hard time. Like, what is your recommendation for
Yeah.
kids or for
For parents.
parents who are kind
Yeah.
of in this burnout
So,
stage?
so
They're
first of all,
tired of doing the work
yeah.
constantly.
Yeah. ADHD kids are a handful. I know it. I'm still a handful as an adult. Most ADHD kids really want to delight you and please you. And I know you're getting tired, but really tell them anything that they might be doing right. Because these kids are looking at you and they do care what you think. And even though, they look like little idiots and they're defiant and they're sassy, they do care. And that's woven into our genetics that they care. And so please don't be stingy with love. Don't be stingy with grace. Like really go out of your way just to point out any old thing. Like at the top of this podcast, you said, "Hey, you were on time." I'm like, "Why? Thank you for noticing." Right? Because that you found something I did right. I can tell you 10 things I did wrong today. So ADHD people are always feeling that. So find something. And when you find something that your kid's doing right, that's going to encourage you. Like, you know what? All is not lost. He did show love to his small sister today. You know what? Maybe he's not going to be a sociopath. So, you're going to find hope in that and you're going to start to turn your brain. The other thing is be really clear with your energy. And this is what I mean by this. I'm an energy miser. When I was young, I would just give any old person energy. And now I'm like, whoo, this is running out. This is not a renewable resource. So,
You probably had it last longer for you though than most people.
oh, because there are times I get emails and I'm like, I don't really care to have an opinion on this. I don't care. It's not a big deal. And so, as parents, I want you to realize what are the big deals? What are the small deals? And I'm going to tell you the big deals are around character development. It's not about if they made their bed today. And if you think it is, I think you're missing the mark. Now, ADHD kids, a lot of times they're slobs. Okay. I have 3 of my own ADHD kids. They're a mess. I mean, they grew up, they're fine, they're adults, professionals. I think one of them's still a mess, but I mean, meaning like a messy
Yeah.
person.
Yeah.
And kids, if you're listening, you can guess and fight amongst yourselves. But anyway, let's say the bedroom, if the principle is, hey, let's not have you take dishes in there because that attracts vermin. So my standard is I don't care what your room looks like, but no dishes are allowed in there. That's a hard and fast rule that ADHD people can follow. But keep your room clean, that's vague and that's so really hone in on what you want. And also hone in on your own boundaries. The book talks about this. If you're tired of chasing people's laundry, hockey equipment throughout the house, let your kid fail because I'm no longer willing to do it. So get straight on those boundaries about what you're willing to do and unwilling to do.
And what you're willing to let go of, right? I
Yeah.
guess like
Yeah.
if they don't show up at hockey with the gear, you got to let that go, right?
Oh, their coach is going to yell at them, something
Yeah.
fierce.
Yeah.
And then they're going to remember that.
Yeah. If it takes them a whole season, right? Just kind of allow that. Yeah.
Yeah. So, but keep focused on the character traits. When I work with parents, I ask, well, what character traits do you want to raise in your children? And they're like, oh, I don't know. I've never thought about it. I'm like, okay, if you had 3, what are the 3 we're going to parent for? I can tell you my 3. I wanted leadership, integrity, and strength. And those are three that I have all girls. And I'm like, I think that's what it's going to take for women to carve their way into the world. So that's what I'm going to do. And so as, their rooms were a mess. They didn't pass all their classes, but were they showing the traits the character traits I was trying to develop? And they have other marvelous traits too
Yeah.
that
Yeah.
are just
I
there
love
by
that you
God's
said
mercy.
that, right? Because that's what you focused on as a parent to help you decide what was a big deal and what wasn't,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
In your daily family life.
Yeah.
It kind of helps you prioritize
Yeah. Otherwise, I
where to
get,
focus.
yeah, we were in an affluent high school where everyone's child is gifted. Everyone's child is going to delightful places. And I had ADHD kids who were struggling. And it really helped me from getting caught up in the comparing my kids with other kids. It gave me some kind of landmark to go, okay, but are they showing integrity? Are they showing leadership? Are they showing strength? So that's just what I did. Now, remember, I survived it. My youngest is 23. So, I can go, whoo. My youngest doesn't even have ADHD. So frankly, she raised herself. She was born 40 years old. I don't deserve this kid. But the others, all my ADHD kids in July will be 30 and above. So
Congratulations. And they have a
they're
good
daily,
sense of themselves and their in
they're
life.
amazing people to be around. They're funny and they're incredible. They're doing very well in their jobs, in their careers. So I love watching their sense of self, how it's established. And we spend time together, not because we have to, but because we like each other.
Yeah. Good job, Mother.
That to me is oh, well, here's the thing. I did not know that while I was going through parenting. And any parent out there, I would just want you to know I screwed up plenty. And I think love covers a lot of it.
Yeah.
Because I always went after the relationship.
Yeah. And I think I like your character to focus on their, what kind of character you want to develop in your kids. And if you keep that and stay the course, you're a shining beacon of light on, it works out over course of
over
time.
time. You got to play the long game with ADHD kids. You got to play the long game. 30 years old, folks. That's when you can go, woo, it's great. So, yeah.
Yeah, that's wonderful. Thank you for sharing all these stories and your wisdom and your analogies.
Thanks
This
for
was
having
just
me.
a wealth of information. So I appreciate it. And I'm sure everybody who listens will get a lot out of this. So thank you.
Well, thanks. And thanks for your podcast. Parents need you. So thank you for the work you're doing.
Yeah, thank you.